Hi, I'm Kaylin.
And this is Brooklyn. And this is Death Row Dialogue.
Did you forget what to do because we're in person?
Yeah, I think it feels a lot more real. We're actually recording ourselves today. In case you're listening to it on Spotify, we're actually going to start uploading actual videos of us on YouTube as well. And Kaylin embarrassed me because she told me that it was going to be really casual, and now she looks hot, and I look like a bimbo. So, just to state for the record, she definitely is one of those girls.
No, I
that
am
said,
not.
"What are you wearing?" And I told her, I was like, "Oh, I mean, I'm going to look decent, but I'm not going to try." And then she comes in with her eye makeup done, and she looks really hot, and I'm like, okay.
Okay, from where the camera's at, you can't even see our makeup, so it's fine.
Okay. I can see it.
We look the same. You wouldn't be able to tell us apart. We're like twins.
I'm fucking pregnant.
They can't see that.
Oh, I guess right.
Okay, so I have two today because the one in Texas was a little short.
Okay.
So we have a Texas and an out of state.
Okay.
So for Texas, we are at inmate 51, whose name is Curtis Johnson. So he was born in 1954. He does have a lot of jail records that date back to his teenage years. It didn't list everything, but especially if it wasn't all in Texas, it wouldn't be listed, and they wouldn't have, like, juvenile stuff on there. He was currently on parole for armed robbery in 1977 in Harris County, and he had been sentenced to 45 years in prison for that robbery. I'm not sure.
So he's already in prison right now.
So he was in prison for robbery in 1977, and then he got paroled for it. It didn't say how long he was in prison for, but the crime happened in 1983.
So that's like 5 years.
Yeah,
6
not
years.
a lot. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
For
okay.
armed robbery. So the crime was on September 24th, 1983, and it was in Houston, Texas, which I want to do better about saying where they're at.
Okay.
So in Houston, which honestly a lot of them are in like the Houston area.
Yeah. It's probably nothing against Houston. It's just a lot of higher population.
Well, I mean, like the bigger areas like Dallas and Houston are going to be
San Antonio.
Yeah, like higher crime rate. But so Curtis Lee Johnson was 28 at the time. Him and Roy Jr. Jones entered the open rear window of a second-story apartment of Murray Dale Sweat, who was 25. So they broke into this guy's apartment that had an open rear window.
And it was on the second story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So while they were burglarizing it, they heard people come up the stairs. Instead of running away, they remained there, and when two people entered the house, Johnson pointed the gun at them and told them not to move. One of the men turned and ran away out the door, but Murray, who was the second man, lunged at Johnson and grabbed his legs. Johnson kicked Murray, who fell over backwards, and then while Murray was laying on his back, Johnson shot and killed him. They left with $8 and a camera. Yeah. Murray was not married at the time, but was survived by his parents, 3 sisters, and 2 brothers. Johnson and Jones were arrested 6 days after the murder during an aggravated robbery at the U-Totem store in Houston. Police linked the gun in the robbery to Murray's murder. So that was the crime. Yeah.
Okay. Another time where someone that would have remained locked up probably would have never committed a crime again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was in there for 40 years, but even if he served more than freaking 6,
then he would. Yeah. So Johnson's lawyer attempted to say that he shot Murray in a, quote, mindless reaction. And he was basically saying that Johnson was going to run away, but he couldn't run away because Murray stopped him. And that's why he shot him. So he wouldn't have been shot if Murray hadn't have attacked him first. Yeah. So the other guy, Jones, was convicted of burglary, theft, and armed robbery. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison after giving testimony against Johnson.
He probably got out in 2.
I don't know when he got out. So Ronald Mock had tried 17 capital cases. So Ronald Mock was somebody that was a part of the trial. I couldn't find exactly what he was. I don't know if he was the judge or like one of the prosecutors, or I'm not really sure what he was, but he'd been involved in 17 capital murder cases, and he said that Johnson was the one who didn't deserve to be executed. and that Murray attacked Johnson first because he knew he was trying to get out of there. The thing that set this case apart to Mock was that Johnson had the intent to burglarize, not to kill.
That's not fair to say. So if someone breaks into someone that you cares about family and accidentally kills them, they shouldn't.
Well, but I
pay
mean,
for
that
any
goes back to
consequence.
everything that we've said, where if you're going to bring a gun somewhere, you're intending
Yeah.
to use it,
Yeah.
you know? So I thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Johnson was found guilty on December 13th, 1983, and he was executed on August 11th, 1992, when he was 38. His last words were him thanking his mother and aunt and forgave everyone who participated in this. Yeah.
He forgave people?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, he forgave everyone who participated in his execution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're moving on to the second case, which is from Ohio. So that's where the most listeners are from our past 5 episodes is from Ohio. So, and we've done Ohio once before. So this is the second person we've done in Ohio. And it is J.D. Scott, who was born August 1952 in Cleveland, Ohio. He was the 6th of 11 children born to Sadie and Willie Scott. Both his parents were alcoholics who spent most of their money on gambling and alcohol. He grew up in a poor neighborhood on Cleveland's east side and slept in a bedroom with up to 4 of his siblings sharing the same bed. He spent most of his days on the street, and by the age of 9, he had been arrested on charges of truancy, theft, and breaking and entering. He was later placed in the Cleveland Boys' School for Troubled Youth at 13. 2 of his siblings were murdered, and another was paralyzed in a shooting that happened.
Okay. Yeah. So they literally live in the ghetto.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't say if it was a drive-by shooting or if it was like a gang-related shooting. I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like neither of those are like normal where we're from.
Yeah.
So now I get where he's saying like they lived in like a
Bad.
yeah.
They're
area.
just yeah. So on May 6th of 1983, when Scott was 30, him and an accomplice entered the V&E Delicatessen. Which, do you know what a delicatessen is?
Absolutely no idea.
I didn't either. I was like, what is this super fancy word? Like, what is this? It's a deli. It's literally a deli.
From now on, whenever we go eat Jason's Deli or anything, that's what I'm calling
Do you want to go to Jason's Delicatessen? Doesn't it make it sound so fancy?
That's how we can get some of our coworkers. They never want to go where we want to go for lunch. We should just start saying the most elaborate name possible.
Yeah.
So whenever we pull up, they won't know.
That would be hilarious. Okay, yeah, anyway, so you learned a new word. Delicatessen.
Delicatessen.
And so when I was looking it up, it was saying the delis are supposed to be exotic meat and cheeses.
Okay.
Yeah. The more you know. So anyway, entered the V&E Delicatessen on Cleveland's east side and placed a food order with Vinnie Price, who was the 75-year-old owner. Vinnie had worked there for 30 years, and she had become the co-owner in 1963. After Vinnie prepared their food, she was shot in the chest from a distance of less than 12 inches. Scott said that he shot her because she was reaching for a gun. So.
In the delicatessen?
Yes.
She was reaching for a gun.
Yes.
What?
It doesn't say if they left with any money. So a nearby resident stated that while she was walking home, she noticed a greenish-blue Cadillac without a rear license plate pull up from across her house. She saw 2 men in the car, one behind the wheel and one in the back seat. She later saw another man come over a nearby fence and dive through the open window of the car. The car then drove away. The next day, on May 7th, Scott participated in the robbery and slaying of Alexander Jones, who was 66, a security guard at a restaurant called the Shrimp Boat. So, yeah. After, Ricky Tramble called the police with information regarding the deli robbery in Cleveland. He said that he was with Scott and 4 other men when they began talking about the robbery. Scott stated that, well, I did what I had to do. She shouldn't have made me move like that. Fuck it, it's over with. That was his statement about it. 2 of the men were arrested and gave statements to the police that Scott shot Vinnie. On May 17th, 1983, warrants were put out for Scott for aggravated murder with an aggravated robbery specification a firearm specification, and an aggravated robbery. So that's only 11 days after it happened. On July 29th, 1983, Scott was arrested in Reading, Pennsylvania. And on November 18th, he was transferred to Ohio for trial. And during the trip, he was asking the guards who was using his name in connection to the homicide and robbery. So he was saying that somebody was framing him and using his name. And he said that he was in Pennsylvania the whole time that the crimes happened. Yeah. Scott pleaded not guilty, but was found guilty on March 23rd, 1984, not even a year later. His co-conspirators in the robbery and killing all received life in prison. His lawyer kept pushing through appeals, saying that Scott was schizophrenic and that an execution would violate his Eighth Amendment right against cruel and unusual punishment. The court acknowledged that that is a mental illness, but that it did not stop Scott from understanding the proceedings against him. While in prison, Scott racked up over 40 major conduct infractions in prison, including stabbing another inmate and setting his cell on fire. Which, I don't know how you
set a cell on fire, because isn't it metal and concrete?
Well, I mean, like, I thought you just weren't given access to, like, an open flame. Like,
you could just use 2 sticks. That's what they used to do.
2 pencils, probably.
I mean, let's be real. I feel like paraphernalia is very easy to get a hold of in jail or prison.
So, on October 14th, 1985, Scott and several other inmates took 2 guards hostage at the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility. The prisoners demanded that they receive free deodorant, access to TV and radios, more desserts, bless you.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
And transfers to the Franklin County Jail. So, they threatened to harm the guards if the demands were not met, and after 15 hours of negotiations, the guards were released unharmed. In June 1986, Scott and his accomplices were tried for kidnapping and charged in relation to the hostage-taking. However, the jury was unable to reach a verdict. The prosecutor struck a deal with the inmates and said that if they agreed to plead to a lesser charge of abduction, they would be treated to a gourmet dinner. The inmates agreed, and each of them were sentenced to 2 to 10 years in prison that would run concurrently with other charges. The meal sparked an outrage. So what do you think about that?
I feel like they basically rewarded them. And then
Exactly.
It's also stupid because to go nuts and then hold people hostage for... I would have just lied to them, but that's why I can't be a negotiator, because I would lie my butt off to prisoners. Like, I'd be like, hey, like, let's not kill them. Come over here. We'll give you A, B, C, and D, you know. But, like, it was weird because they offered it. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, instead of giving you free deodorant and all this, like, they could have easily negotiated, like, hey, you're not going to move somewhere else. Let's be real. You're prisoners. You don't really get that kind of right. We'll give you some free deodorant and this and maybe something else free. But to treat them to a gourmet meal, it's basically like, hey, I know you just, like, threatened to kill these people, but let me give you some good food.
I think the thing that really gets me is that, like, so they abducted guards.
Yeah.
They were put on trial for them. The jury couldn't decide, and the prosecutor was like, we'll give you a gourmet dinner. We'll reward you if you do this. But it's crazy, because what does 2 to 10 years matter to them? They're already in prison on death row.
Yeah.
They're literally already going to either die in there or get executed.
Yeah, if anything, you should be pissed off and put them in some type of, like, concealed confinement. Like, what is that called?
Solitary
confinement.
Well,
for the rest of your days.
Like, understand what was so big about the attorney, like, making sure they got charged with this? Because the only thing in my mind that it will change is the fact if they're put up for appeals, they'll be denied because they have this other charge.
Mm.
That's the only thing I can think that, like, even matters for them to get charged for this.
Yeah.
It's just insane. I feel like you're telling other inmates, well, if you kidnap guards, then we'll give you a gourmet dinner.
It's like rewarding a kid for throwing a fit.
Yeah. I thought that was insane. So on May 15th of 2001, the Court of Appeals stepped in and halted an execution at 8:57 p.m., and Scott had already had the injection stunts put in his arm. So he was about to get the drug, and they were like, wait. He already had the diaper on.
They already put his pull-up on.
But he was executed a month later on June 14th when he was 48. His final words were to his siblings who came to witness. He said, "Don't worry, tell them I am all right." And that is J.D. Scott from Ohio.
Wow. Okay. Well, one of my facts today actually corresponds with our first guy. Was it Mr. Jones? Wait, did I make that up?
The Jones part?
Hold on, bring it back.
The first guy was Johnson.
Yeah. I don't know why I said Jones.
Well, his co-defendant was Jones.
Okay, that's where I'm getting Jones from. I was like, I'm not crazy. I know I heard that name. Yeah, both of those were awful. Yeah, they kind of had it coming. I don't know what else to say besides that because, yeah, especially how they were both so nonchalant about both of their crimes, and it almost felt like I hate when people commit these crimes and they're like, oh, poor pity me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not the victim, not their families, nothing like that. It's just like, well, they kind of both related to corresponded with the fact of like
they started it.
Yeah, well, it was their fault because like, I went in there with the gun and everything, and I was trying to rob them, but like they made a quick movement, and I just felt like, it's not up to me. So
well, next episodes, just a little teaser. He was called the meanest man on death row by the media.
Oh gosh, I'm super scared. I already know I'm not gonna like him.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
On to your facts.
On to my facts. Even Kaylin helped me today. We tried to look up stuff, and this is kind of upsetting. I'm gonna dig deeper into it because our last episode we talked about if maybe disabled people like somehow like what type of crimes can be committed against a disabled person that gets you on death row, because obviously kids are a huge thing, especially in Texas. If you mess with a kid here, especially like we said, anything under 10,
mm-hmm.
It's like automatically you're eligible for death row. So we were curious about handicapped people and seeing what protection is for them, because I don't know if you know, but I did see it is more than 2 times more likely if you're handicapped or disabled that violent crimes will be committed against you.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
So with that being said, we were very curious about that. I looked it up. I could not find really anything. The only thing I could really find is like if you can't be put on death row if you're handicapped or have like
it was more of like saying that like the only thing that looked up when you do that is what happens to people that have mental disabilities or mental health issues that commit a crime.
Yes.
In relations to death row. There was nothing about if they are the victim. Yes,
and I kept trying to reword it, and we both could not find literally anything on it. I'm sure there is some type of protection. And I even kept trying to look for like EMS workers, because we also brought up that, and they just kept saying peace officers. So I don't know if EMS and peace officers is like under the same category somehow.
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either.
I think peace officers just like police officers, state troopers, like maybe like maybe even like constables or like JPs. Basically anyone who is, having to make peace.
Yeah.
But I don't think EMS is a medical worker.
Okay. You mean what?
Like a medical professional. That's what EMS is. They're not a part of the law district.
Oh, I thought you were saying like, okay, I thought you mixed that up back around, and I was like, what do you think EMS is? I thought you were saying something about them not being medical. No. I was like, okay, maybe you didn't hear me right. Anyways, but because I couldn't find those, I did look up a few other ones. I have 3, and fun fact, it's not really fun for prisoners, but maybe this will keep you out of prison. 50% higher chance of dying while you're in prison.
Oh my gosh.
Then living out amongst regular people, you have a 50% more likely to die.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there was 2 little things that happened in 2013 and 2014. In 2013, in California, around 10,000 people were released early, but not because of good behavior. They were released just because prisons and the state became overcrowded.
Mm-hmm.
But the kicker is they also release people with non-violent crime. With violent crimes, and they put people with non-violent crimes in their place.
That's insane.
Yeah, so they literally, it's like the armed robbery guy. Like, he got out in like 6 years. I wonder if at the time like something like that happened, or Johnson, if something. I don't understand that, because yeah, they basically released people that had like armed robberies, things like that, and then we're putting in people with like weed paraphernalia and
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane, because sometimes I do feel like they care more about like economical crimes over like violent crimes sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be real with you, I would much rather have it the other way around. Like, as a citizen, yeah, if you commit violent crimes, I don't want you out with the rest of us.
Well, I mean, and like, I feel like the percentage of you being a repeat offender when you are an armed robber or like a raper or, you know, all these things.
A rapist. You're a raper. That's not funny.
I know, when I said that, I was like, this does not sound right. But it's a much higher chance that you're going to hurt other people. So it's crazy to me, because like the prison system's not even going to have any like responsibility for that.
And how pissed would you be knowing that, like, as a citizen, like, how pissed would you be if like they released all these prisoners, like someone that you knew was like a rapist or something like that, and they come out early, you know, and then they do something to you or someone you care about.
Well, and that's the thing is, when we see these, they're like, they got out of jail and then 2 months later they're killing someone.
Yeah.
Which, that's not the case all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like,
but they shouldn't have chances to prove to us whether they're going to do it or not.
There's a reason that you get the sentence you get. Like, it's not like a suggestion.
Yes.
It's a minimum.
And that'll probably be next week's, is like, I'm going to do stuff on probably facts on the repeat offenders.
Okay.
And see, like, what the percentage is for, like, repeat offenders for certain crimes, and see, like, how high and how low it is. Because I would be curious to know that, just because, yeah, whenever I read that, I was like, that's awful. And then in 2004, this one, it's not funny. It's really messed up. But it's a little bit not as chaotic as this one. So in 2014, in an investigation at Gordon County Jail, which that's in Georgia, they actually found during the investigation that they were actually only giving them 2 meals a day, and it was such low portions. A lot of them were so hungry they were eating toothpaste and toilet paper. It was it wasn't prison, it was a jail. But I thought that
awful.
Was great, because I'm gonna be real with you guys, I don't think in prison you should have any gourmet meals or anything. But to be so hungry that you're gonna eat toilet paper and
Did
toothpaste?
they get any like ramifications for that, or anything? Like, did they get shut down?
No, they're still open. Because I looked up the jail, and I was like,
that is
wow,
insane.
Yeah, it's in Georgia, and I was like,
but that's the thing, is people that are like, that's not even, not saying that it's right to do that anywhere, but that's a jail. People go there for traffic offenses.
Yeah.
Like, you could go there for running
public
a red
intoxication.
light. Like, literally anything. And your toilet paper? Eating toilet paper? And I'm sure they're not even given a lot of toilet paper, so they're probably deciding if they have to eat it or use it. Like, that is awful.
Oh, it was really sad, because I did go on, like, a search, because I wanted to see, like, what prisoners ate in prison, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, what, like, their routine meals are?
Yes, and just to see it. And some of them were, like, respectfully outrageous, like prisoners were wanting certain things, and it was kind of like, okay, no, you're in prison. I think you're forgetting, like, you don't get to have home.
Well, this seems like two ends of the spectrum.
Yes,
it's either we're not feeding you at all, or you're in prison camp.
Yeah,
like, enjoy your stay.
Yeah,
you know, there just needs to be a good medium where, like, you're eating 3 meals a day and you're getting your basic food groups, and that's it.
Yeah, I did read stuff about, which I don't know if this corresponds with all prisons, and I'm sure it doesn't, because literally last week, didn't we talk about Club Fed?
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously not all of them are that horrible.
Well, but I mean, it's like they think that they can get away and, like, save more money doing these things because no one will care about these people. But that's not the case.
Well, I don't know if our audience knows, but I at least know back in the day, at least from my grandpa, I was told about whenever they had to go visit a prison, it was for, like, I want to say it was for, like, some type of ministry or something. They went to visit, and whenever they did that, they actually did have pretty okay meals there, and the reason being is because prisoners actually did do their own farming.
Oh yeah,
so they
that's what
did
you were
have
saying.
fresh. They had fresh potatoes, fresh fruit, stuff like that, like what was in season. And I think that'd be a good idea now because then, I mean, yeah, we would like citizens would have to pay for like in taxes, like probably like the
Soil and, like,
stuff like
seeds.
that, and like probably the gardening tools, you know, but it's kind of gonna pay for itself. Period.
Well, I was
And then
thinking.
they can just eat a lot of potatoes. Who doesn't like potatoes? You know.
I was thinking. I visited our local jail. I visited like 3 times when I was in high school. I didn't go in. I visited. I toured. Like, I was in the criminal justice program, so we did tours, and I was just in like multiple of the classes. And I remember one year was actually on my birthday. So for my birthday, I toured a jail. But it was fine because the kitchen staff, they were like making cookies and stuff, and they gave us some cookies, and they were actually pretty good. And they're like, these are
But
just.
that's a jail. It's not
Yeah.
a prison.
But this was a jail.
Oh
But
yeah.
they weren't feeding them.
Duh.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
So next week you're gonna look up. What were you gonna look up again?
I'm gonna look up like
Repeat offenders.
repeat offenders and like the percentage of certain crimes on how likely they are to repeat. Because if I, as just normal old me, that really honestly I don't like. I feel like I'm always learning stuff with this. That isn't in the justice system. Like they obviously are more than capable of looking at the same thing.
Oh, like
what I'm
the
saying?
people
Like-
that are releasing all these.
Yeah, the people
People.
that are releasing people that have literally, raped somebody or, like
Waved
how
a
would
gun
you
in
feel?
someone's face,
Yeah.
like shot people. Well, so did you look up anything about the Christmas?
So I actually did try for that today too. I looked up stuff on Christmas. There wasn't a lot. I mostly heard like people's sad stories. Like on YouTube, I was watching a few of them, and it's not funny. It's sad. But like one guy was just like, there was a lot of crying. There's a lot of crying on Christmas, and I was like, okay. I mean, obviously, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, like, I guess
It's not like Orange is the New Black where they get to have
Like a party.
play.
Well, but it's also like, it's not like it's a hospital and they have a Santa,
Yeah.
or anything. Like, they're grown adults. So I mean, but like maybe they get like longer visits or something.
I don't know what I'm gonna try to see more stuff into it because I bet you too though prisoners probably do come together and like maybe use some of their snacks that they have or something they probably make. Because I mean, if anyone watches TikTok or anything, you can see where prisoners make like fun different
Like cakes
food.
or stuff like that.
So I'm sure it's more like the prisoners do it for themselves. Like I highly doubt the prison themselves spend the extra money on
to do if they're not gonna buy them food.
Well, also,
I don't
what
think they're
can you
gonna buy them.
decorate? Like, especially people that are in prison, like, I feel like you're also, like, you have higher suicide rates, things like that. Like, what can you really hang up that someone can't harm themselves with?
Yeah.
At least that's a thought I had.
You can't even have tinsel.
You know what I'm saying? Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, tinsel they could
Eat it?
hang them. No.
Oh. I just thought of
No.
choking themselves.
No.
That's not funny, but I'm just like...
It's funny that for your first instinct was them shoving tinsel down their throat.
Because I thought of it being pretty...
Well,
loose.
it makes me think of that scene in The Cat in the Hat where Thing 1 and Thing 2 starts eating the ticket. Do you know that scene? No, I was saying they could hang themselves with it.
Okay, my bad.
Anyways, let's
Awkward.
get off here.
Alright.
Well, thank y'all for listening and seeing our first video episode. We'll get better about recording on video because it's kind of weird right now.
Yeah, I definitely looked at it a few times to make sure it was still recording. And
Well-
because it's awkward to kind of see you like whenever you move, you can see it from the
Well,
side.
I've been trying to act like there's like I'm one of those horses that have the blinders up. Like I can't see anything.
We should wear sunglasses next time. That
Well-
way no one will know where we're looking.
Or they'll think that we're like drunk or something trying to record. Who knows?
Maybe.
So we will see you next time. Make sure you go to our YouTube if you want to see what we look like. And that's it.
Or don't, because Kaylin definitely was not a homie today.
And I won't be next time.
Alright.
Bye.
Bye.